Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back for another episode. This is Frank Hagan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thanks for those of you who are tuned in and have been tuned in the past. And thanks to my many, many subscribers. Today, I not only have a guest on, I've got a repeat guest on, Adam Connors. Adam Connors was in episode 88, which we released back on August 8th. And back then, just to share a little bit about Adam, he's a social architect. He runs an organization, a movement, I would call it more so, called NetworkWise, really trying to educate people to be good stewards of their social capital, better networkers, improving networking. And so when I had him on, we really kind of talked about certainly the genesis of his organization and the things he's doing, but just, good networking and bad networking. And if you've listened to the program, I have talked about articles that he has written, kind of given my commentary on the articles. But anyhow, I've been following Adam and following his stuff, and he's got a certification program out. So I wanted to get him on to share a little bit about this certification program. It's called NetworkWise Certification. Adam, welcome back to the program. How you been?
Awesome, Frank. Such an honor. I appreciate that. It's always great to talk to you, and I love the idea that you had coming into this conversation about essentially just letting people hear how two super connectors have a conversation. And I think there's just so much value to that, because a lot of people get caught up on the scriptiveness, or and they're overthinking things as opposed to just the natural flow of a conversation, and just having a positive intent and trying to really just the focal point being benefiting the other person, or just sincerely connecting through active listening or whatever ways that we go about doing that. So excited to be here, and hope to be able to provide some value to you and those that are listening.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to kind of jump in and talk about the certification program. What I love about our relationship is we kind of come at networking from different angles. I mean, we're really kind of speaking the same language. I, through AmSpirit Business Connections, create these groups and bring people together. And much of that is bring people together. There's some education to it, but a lot of it is, hey, figure it out. And where you're coming at it is and you're really reaching for a broader audience, but you're coming at it from here, let me help you become successful. Let me give you the tools. And our organization's less about that and more about actually making the connections for people. But share with us about the certification, if you would, and how it works, the who, what, where, and how sort of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you. And before going into that, I think that's a great point that you have, is that a lot of times it can be difficult for what you're doing is when you do get these amazing people in a room together or just part of these networks, but if they don't know how to contribute, it's kind of for naught. And they could have good intent, but if they just don't understand it and they don't understand these habits, it's kind of a shame. So this certification, to your point, it is broad. It's for everybody. It applies to everybody, because who can't benefit from building great relationships? And to give you a little backdrop before going into it, I was a career coach back in the day, had a career coaching business, and I had lost out on some business because I was not a certified coach. So I said, all right, well, let me look into this certification. So I looked into 2 different certification programs, got halfway through, and I said, this is absolute garbage. I was like, there is no way that I would, pass along this information. It's antiquated, and just quite frankly, I just didn't agree with it. So to me, a lot of certifications lost a lot of value. That was just paper. So fast forward a few years later, I remembered that experience, and I was putting this together. I figured there's no way this is just going to be some fluff. I need to put something together that people who I hold in high regard, like yourself and some other people that have had the opportunity to go through this, could go through this certification and say, yeah, you know what, I've learned something, and if I apply a lot of these habits, that it's going to get me where I need to go.
Right.
So that being said, I created the NetworkWise certification, and what that does essentially, going through this program, it's a 14-step or 14 modules. They're 3 to 5 minute videos. After each video series, you take 3 to 5 different quizzes that, if you were paying attention, you should have no problem passing. And then upon completing the video series, what you do is you've got to complete some action items. And these action items are, taking the quiz, developing a list of personal goals in terms of as they're tied to relationships, creating an elevator pitch, as is so important.
Yep.
There are a couple guides you need to read. There's taking a self-awareness quiz and sending that to a friend. Having self-awareness is so important and so often overlooked. I think people are starting to become a little more in vogue these days. I've got doing a 30-day gratitude challenge, and there are all these little action items that people have to go through. And the idea is to be able to create these habits, because like we've discussed earlier, you don't control your future, you control your habits, and your habits dictate your future. So the certification itself, the idea is that it is going to, validate an individual's accomplishment of being recognized, as a leading expert in developing these world-class relationships through, fostering connectivity and improving just business worth. The idea is that once you go through this, that you not only, learn and understand what these social skills, what it means to network, but you have the habit, but you also have the confidence to kind of create and nurture, these relationships, and to really, and what it does, it also just kind of credentializes your high level of social capital.
Okay. How do people find this? How do they take advantage of it?
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, thank you. I appreciate you having me on to be able to share this. They can go to my website, networkwise.com. Let me click onto it myself right now. And then at the bottom of the website, there's a couple ways to access it, but it says at the bottom right, it says Get NetworkWise Certified. And they can sign up from there. Yeah.
Now, if somebody works for a company, can they, is that something they can work for and have the company pay for it, or is this the individual? How does that all work, or either or?
So
both?
Great question. So the answer is both, and that's a great question, because what I'd recommend and what's happened is that some companies offer you're allocated a certain budget towards learning and development. The average as of 2018 or 19, I think it was 19. The average company has a it's like $1,300 budget for learning and development. Okay. So if you approach it with your company, they'll more likely to reimburse you. But as an individual, you can also do it. It's an investment in yourself. What's happened as well, I'm actually in talks with a company. Someone brought this to their attention. They wanted the company to pay for it. And the company, I gave them a demo, and now I'm in talks with training, an entire division of a company. So those kinds of things can happen as well.
Okay. Now are communities building around this? I mean, I'm thinking back to the Good Housekeeping Seal days, right? People had the Good Housekeeping Seal, and you kind of knew, right? Or Better Business Bureau is another one.
Yep.
Is something happening along those lines? Are people just getting trained, and that's kind of where it's at?
Well, we're relatively, this has only been out a few months, but we've garnered some really keen interest. I'm working with a Fortune, 50 company. I'm rolling it out throughout their leadership program. It's huge. I can't wait for that to be completed, because that's going to be, it's going to put this thing on the map immediately. But I'm also working with God, I'm working with some major financial institutions. I've got, again, on the leadership side, that seems to be where it's gained the most interest. The companies that are investing in their upcoming leaders, what's happened is there's been, for the past 2 decades, the push has been on STEM, the science, technology,
Right.
engineering, and math. And what's happened is a lot of the talent has shifted, towards these tech skills and these quote unquote soft skills that I like to call really the durability skills have been neglected. So what's happening, a lot of companies and a lot of people within these organizations, they're growing and they're good. But when it comes time to be in some kind of leadership position, they're really dropping the ball. They don't have these social skills that we're talking about and that we're training with this certification. So that has really garnered a lot of interest, in that area. And it lends itself a lot of times, as people just think about networking as getting a job.
Yeah.
And it does, make no bones about it, over 80% of people are getting their jobs through their networks, but there's so many other areas that having this learned skill set lends itself to, coming up with good ideas, collaborating, not only just coming up with a good idea, Frank, but being able to get that idea executed, because if you have relationships, people are going to be more apt to listen to you, and you build that credibility quicker, and you can get right to the punchline if they already kind of know who you are, and you don't have to spend a lot of that time because you've already done it. You've put in the work. So,
well, there's a lot to this, and I don't know that I don't see it as a new problem. It's just a problem that is getting more and more attention. I started my career in public accounting as a tax consultant, and I saw it in that environment. I'm sure it's in lots of environments, engineering, big engineering firms and law firms. But they go to the schools and they hire the best and the brightest. But the schools don't teach the soft skills other than to say that they're important. And and in reality, they're not equipped to, because the average professor on a campus isn't really deploying these skills either. They're not out trying to get clients. They've got a job. They need to publish and research. They don't really understand networking. Other than that,
Frank, you're hitting the nail on the head. And so what I've been in discussions with some of the top 10 MBA programs in the world. And I don't want to say their names because they're highly regarded, but I have I've got one of my standard questions when I'm kind of quote unquote selling it. And I say, all right, well, why are your students going to your program? And then they tell me, well, we're the best. And I say, well, what makes you the best? Well, we get the best teachers. And I say, all right, well, what gives you? Well, they had access to our network. I said, okay, now you're starting to talk my language. Great. And then, we bring in some of the best speakers and they get access to these people. I said, all right. I said, okay, great. I go, what are you teaching them when you bring in these great speakers that are outside of the core curriculum? What do you teach them to do after those speakers have come in? I have yet, not just the top 10, so I don't mean to single them out because I have talked to some other schools. Not a single person that I've spoken with has told me that they do anything, in terms of teaching them how to follow up. And what I mean by that is, so say, Frank, I'm teaching at, Hoboken Community College. There's no such thing, but let's just say that I am. And I get to bring in Frank, the franchise. You bring so much wisdom to the table. Like you said, you've got an accounting background, a legal background, your contacts, everything. You're fantastic. And I'm sure they're going to learn stuff, but then what?
Yeah.
Nobody, forget about sending a thank you, but just reaching out. Like, they've brought you in. You're apt to help them. If someone reached out to you and said, hey, Frank, I was really impressed, or I learned a lot from what you spoke about today, I bet you'd be, not only would you respond, but you'd probably take somewhat of a liking to them.
Yeah.
And say,
absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, if there's anything that I can do. And that's just one tiny little thing that I've yet to have a top 10 business school even tell me that they're doing, and they're trading on their network. And that's what you're going to a school, these schools for, because, the content you're going to get everywhere. It's all we can access. We all have access to the same playing field these days. Yeah. So it's the networks. That's why they're going there. So I'm sorry I've gone on a long tangent.
No, that's fine. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Again, give us the contact information, the best way to tap into this NetworkWise certification. I assume you'll probably have an affiliate program at some point too, but with this, let's get the information out there. And
100%. And what I'll also do, Frank, is anyone that comes through your channel, I'll cut the price half off.
Okay.
So anyone that does want to reach out, mention either the name of your podcast or just your name in general, and we'll generate the coupon code. But for anyone that's interested, NetworkWise.com. Feel free to also reach out to me directly, Adam at NetworkWise.com, and on the subject line put referred by Frank Agen, so I know to be able to give you a discount code if that's something of interest to you.
All right.
So, and then if I could mention one other thing, so the certification,
Please.
Not only do we just give the certification, but there's a digital badge that comes along with that as well. So it's not, it offers more than just, going through this training and just getting the piece of paper. So there's that digital badge that's already starting to gain recognition. And what we're planning on doing in the next month or so is putting together a network of those that have gone through the program. So, you're going to get surrounded by like-minded individuals that are being taught the same way to think as well. And, I can say some of the people that are going through this program are extremely impressive people. So not a bad network that you just have an opportunity to inherit just from going through a program. So
right.
I'm sorry to give you a little more color. I forgot to mention that earlier.
No, that's great.
But I appreciate you giving me this platform to share it.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.